Good afternoon. It's meteorologist Michael Fecka, joined here with meteorologist Jeff Lyons here.
We're all here.
Yeah, we're all here. We've all been in here. Byron had you earlier this morning. Arden was in here just a couple of hours
You
ago.
guys tag teamed a little bit, and of course we're going to tag team some here too, because this is a big, big storm.
This is a big system, one of the bigger storms we've had in quite some time here, potentially maybe even a historic storm.
Have you noticed how we put all the really bad weather on the weekends? This is our way of weeding out the weaker hands, you know, so you're doing great.
But yeah, we're here with another alert day. Today, tomorrow, into Monday. Today and tomorrow, mostly we're on alert for that snow. It's already underway across the tri-state.
Sure.
We've already gotten maybe even an inch or so out there in some spots.
I was out earlier. I went to the airport to do a piece for Out and About and got out on the runways and stuff, and there was just a skim. I would say maybe a half an inch to an inch. It's blowing, as you mentioned, real dry snow, but slick, very slick. And of course, they're using a broom out there, and you'll see that on 14 News tonight. And I'll have a Out and About piece either tomorrow or Monday. But it was interesting. Those crews are going to be there. They're planning to stay, and remember, they live there. They sleep, eat, and of course work until Wednesday.
Wow.
So they're taking the forecast seriously, and of course you should too. One flight left, surprisingly. There were none coming in, but there were some lucky folks that got out today.
Maybe hopefully going to Florida.
Right. Well, that's about the only spot on this map that doesn't have some sort of warning on it right now. And I guess new here this afternoon is the winter weather advisory or winter storm watch has been extended. That'd be an advisory all the way up to Chicago now. So a little more northerly track.
Yeah, the system continues to evolve here. But as far as our forecast, everything seems to be on track so far. We're expecting mainly snow. We've got that winter storm warning in place for the heavy snowfall accumulation and the brutal cold. There is that potential also for some mixing across portions of western Kentucky, mostly with sleet, but there is that potential for some light.
And the consistency of the snow is strange. While I was out at the airport for about an hour. When I got there, we had these great bigger flakes, about the size of my fingernail. But by the time I left, you could barely see the snow. It was very granular, so coming down. And I think that's where people get a little overly confident. You know, it's like, oh, well, it's like sugar coming down, but it's still real slick.
It's still very, very slick, and it's laying down pretty quickly, especially on the roads. They have kind of accumulated a lot faster than I've noticed even some of the grassier surfaces, because the flakes you mentioned were so small. They've been kind of settling in between the blades.
Right. And we've got these little, you'll get a little pulse, sort of, a little energy in there, and get that heavier period of snow, and then it kind of slacks off. And that's what we were expecting yesterday leading into the event. I think the big, this is always causes the most anxiety here when we forecast snow. We're kind of waiting for the atmosphere to saturate or get the moisture going and really turn on that snow machine where we will pick up the significant overnight snow. It's coming, but this is what I call the head fake stage, where you think, oh, that's not going to be so bad.
This is like the primer, essentially. This kind of first wave that moved through this morning and this afternoon is what you're doing, is saturating the atmosphere in time for that second wave.
You're not on your mic, Michael. You're wearing a mic. Okay, I didn't see that. Go ahead.
Everybody can hear me. I think so.
No.
Yeah, I think we're good.
Okay.
But yeah, as you were mentioning, we were expecting more scattered type snow through this afternoon before it really starts to ramp back up. But even with some scattered snow showers, you get these little bands to form. And as you mentioned, you get some heavier snowfall rates within there. And then also a lot of the times on either side of this band, because you have a lot of rising air right through the center, it sinks on either side. So you end up getting dry slotted on either side of those bands. So you can actually see that happening there in Gibson County. Not much snow falling there. Same thing across western Kentucky.
And if we pull the radar out a little more, you can just roll it out there with the mouse. You'll see what Michael's talking about here, the banding effect there. So you kind of have one band now from about Evansville over to Cape Girardeau or so, and then down, pull it out a little farther if you would. And then I'm not used to not driving. This is kind of nice sitting here in the passenger seat, back seat weather casting, right? And you see those other bands beginning to form, and that's kind of a sign of a more intensifying low pressure system, and the kind that will produce the sort of snow we're talking about.
Yeah, so we are certainly on track for a big snowfall across the tri-state, and especially with that bullseye kind of lining up right up and along the Ohio River or just north of there. If we continue to see these bands kind of set up there, we'll achieve those higher snowfall accumulations with no issue.
I'm going to stand out a little bit because of the heavy snow and snow ice. The one thing this has not changed. The only variable, and of course we were talking about that yesterday, was how far north that changeover will occur. And
Yeah.
we were all looking at models this morning. We've got a text thread going, the four of us,
Yes.
kind of chiming in on different things. And the models from all of them, the four that we look at, had all kind of trended a lot farther north with the sleet,
Yeah.
but now it's kind of going back the other way.
Yeah, so you get these weird fluctuations, and that's just the kind of nowcasting that we get into when the storm starts. The models can, say all they want, but if it's not actually what we're observing on the radar, not necessarily the best thing to use. But a lot of the models do continue to have that mixing line, at least reaching up towards the Owensboro area. It doesn't go all the way up past the Ohio River. So everyone along the Ohio River there, especially north of there, will stay as all snow. It's really across portions of western Kentucky, especially south of Owensboro. That's where you have the best chance of mixing with sleet. And then areas along the very southern edges of Hopkins, Muhlenberg, and Ohio County, that's where you may end up seeing perhaps a glaze of ice, but not as impactful as the snow and sleet that we're all going to.
And I'm not sure this is the first time this has happened in my many years of doing this, but to have a mixed precip event when the temperature out there, I think we were, at 16 or 18 when I walked back here.
Yeah.
Unheard, I mean, not
strange.
unheard of, it is strange. That's a good way to put it, because normally when the air is this cold, it's also very thick, and therefore it's going to be snow. But this one's different. That jet coming around, really forcing the hand there, bringing the warmer air up from the south. So it's thinned out that cold layer.
Yeah.
We didn't think that was possible, but
Yeah,
it is.
it's
And that would be above freezing air, just aloft, though.
Yeah, so it's definitely interesting stuff, and we'll just have to monitor that, mixing line as it moves up. A lot of that is going to happen overnight, which is what I'm going to show you right now as we go through the timing of all of this here. So we're seeing some of those scattered banding type snow moving in across the tri-state right now, although it looks like it will fill in pretty quickly here after dinner time. So this is around 7 o'clock tonight. We're looking at widespread moderate to heavy snowfall across the tri-state at this point. And then it's really overnight that this thing ramps up. And you'll notice that as this storm intensifies, it's bringing up that warmer air you were just talking about.
Right, and I've had the question, I know you have too, are we going to hear thunder and lightning with the snow? It's not out of the question. It would be most likely down here where you have this mixed bag because of the characteristic of the a little more lift down there. So we could see some lightning or hear some thunder down around Madison, probably more likely Hopkinsville. The odds are pretty slim, but they're not zero.
Yeah, they're always going to be slim here during a winter storm. lightning just isn't
Right.
common. But
No, but it happens
yeah,
sometimes.
it happens.
Yeah.
I've heard it before.
And I have too, and it's wild.
So cool. So if you hear any of that overnight tonight, don't be alarmed. But another thing that we're watching through the overnight hours is just that warmer air lifting up to the north. And this particular model continues to bring that sleet line at least all the way up to the Owensboro area before colder air comes crashing back down. So it's a short, brief period where we're mixing with some of that sleet overnight. But by around 7, 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, it looks like all of us are going to be transitioning back over to snow. And then snow continues to pile up there, at least through the first half of Sunday.
And it's kind of hard because we just sort of look at the storm through a keyhole when we're looking at just the tri-state, which of course we're most concerned with. But if you looked at the broader picture, you can see this kind of turning like that. And so it makes perfect sense then that the winds are shifting around from east right now all the way around to the northwest.
Right.
And as that occurs, that's when you get that basically the warm sector is
It's squeezed.
kind of. It's sort of like when we get thunderstorms in the summer, but this process is a little different.
Inverted.
And yeah, so we are still on board with the foot of snow potential.
Yeah.
And we were looking at snowfall totals just a few minutes ago.
Yeah.
And those are right in the money.
Fine.
Yeah.
We haven't really needed to make many changes to this. Obviously, we've got this very large area where that jackpot may set up, where those bands may be setting up. That's where you have the potential for up to a foot or maybe even more. But widespread 1/2 foot to 10 inches, I think, is a good bet across the tri-state at this point in time. I think the only areas that may suffer a little bit in terms of the snowfall is where they're going to mix with that sleet.
Sure, and that pulls down on your snow totals. And I meant to say, too, that we are watching your comments here. We're going to answer some of your your questions in just a few minutes. So we know you're there. A lot of you are there. We'll get to those questions in just a second, okay?
So
Go
we'll go through the precipitation part of this storm. We'll take a break, look at questions, and then we'll transition over to the dangerous cold half of this storm.
There's something for everyone in this forecast here the next few days.
So yeah, this is what we're thinking in terms of snowfall by the end of the system. But we can take you through time by time and kind of how it's all going to work out through the rest of the night. So as we go through this evening, we'll pick up, oh, that actually zoomed in a lot quicker than I expected. But, you know, through the rest of tonight, so before midnight, I think another inch or two is possible here. And then once we get past midnight into early tomorrow morning, that's where this really ramps up. And that's where you see those double-digit snowfall totals coming out here.
Yeah, and that's a couple more inches than what I was looking at before I went to the airport.
Right.
And
This is on top of what's already fallen.
Exactly. And so, you know, we talk about record-setting historic snowfall. Today, the record, I believe, for the day was around 2.9. Tomorrow, it's something like 4 something. We'll blow tomorrow's record away. Today will be a close call, especially in the Evansville area. Yeah. But it has been snowing for several hours over western Kentucky.
Yeah, and they got the snowfall first. There were actually some reports before I even had gotten into the station earlier this afternoon of around 2 inches in the Hopkinsville area. So they've already gotten an inch or two down here. So another 3 to 6 is likely, at least on top of that. But again, that's where they're mixing with the sleet. So those snow totals, they are going to suffer a little bit there. However, just north of that mixing line, they can really blow up because that's where a lot of the moisture is, and that's where the air is still fully cold. So that's where those heavy bands.
Or as you called it, the jackpot, which is a new meteorological term for me.
Yes,
yeah, all right.
Jackpot zone right along the Ohio River. So that's the story on the precipitation. Again, you could mix with a little bit of sleet in these areas. We're expecting maybe up to a ½ inch of sleet with a light glaze of some freezing rain. But no matter how you slice it, whether we end up on the lower end of these totals or the higher end, this is a major storm. So this is going to have a major impact on the tri-state here, and it will continue to do so across the entire country.
And then we got a report just in, and that's the great thing about these streams, because we're interactive here. You can report in, and we'd appreciate all reports. You can do it right now. We're going to be on for a few more minutes. Paula Schaefer in southern Webster County, so right down in here, 3 inches on the ground already.
Okay, so they've already got 3 inches.
And James Allen Garrison, what kind of winter did you get in Maine? Was it worse than here? Well, we'll get to the Maine weather in a minute. We're going to...
We'll complete our forecast
now. Why not?
All right, yeah.
Okay.
Maine,
Bangor versus the tri-state.
Bangor versus the tri-state. Man, oh man, are they different. I mean, in Maine, the 2 years I was there, it felt like snow never stopped. It snowed all the time. Even when it was sunny outside, there was ice crystals falling from the sky because it was just that bitterly cold all the time. And then we would just have these big nor'easters come in. And with nor'easters, obviously, you've got that strong wind component too. So it knocks out power for everybody. And then you've got, of course, feet of snow on top of that.
Yep.
So it's definitely a very different kind of winter up there.
And you came here to escape the snow. You wanted to experience severe weather.
Yeah.
So we greeted you with a tornado, an F3 in Mount Vernon back in July last year. And now we've had 2 of the most disruptive, awful winters I can recall in recent history. So you brought it with you.
You're very welcome, everybody.
Couple more comments coming in here, Michael. We have a question here. Is Owensboro in purple or blue? I think that had to do with snow versus ice. And the short answer is Davis County is kind of a transition county where the southern edge down here by Utica could see more sleet mix and therefore less snow than, say, Owensboro or like Maceo up here or Spotsville, where you're a little farther up in the county. And you know, we're at the point now you can kind of divide it out by miles, which is how it will come. And it'll be a very steep gradient between the heavy snow and then where you have the sleet.
I think at least predominantly Owensboro, you're still going to see mostly snow. It would be a very brief mix with sleet there. Again, I think areas south of Owensboro have the best chance of at least several hours where sleet may
Yep.
be mixing in with snowflakes, and that's why they see less amounts of snow in those bottom 3 counties.
2 more snow reports. Erica Don Wallace reporting 1.5 inches of snow in Morganfield,
Okay.
in Union County there.
Union County.
Misty Luth is asking if West Salem is really in the 15-inch range. Yes, it is. I mean, that's what the models are kicking out. And 15 is doable. I think, probably 10, 12 is probably
More
a
likely.
safer bet. But, yeah, those outliers and areas where you get a little,
Heavier bands.
punch.
It's hard to predict where those heavier bands set up and just how heavy those bands can get. They can get very intense. You could get a quick, hour where you pick up 3 inches, and that can really set you over in terms of your snowfall. So regardless, you're getting a lot of snow no matter where you are in the tri-state. It's going to be disruptive, and we recommend that you don't go out on the roads. You stay inside and you hunker down. However, we know not everybody has the ability to just stay inside. If you have to go out driving, be extremely careful. Clear the snow off your car. Don't drive too fast. Leave extra space. Don't use cruise control. And just, if you start to slide, be careful not to overcorrect it or slam on the brakes.
And I will say people were being responsible. Again, I'm using my airport journey as kind of the basis here, but I drove on Diamond Avenue in Evansville, Highway 41, 57, which were cleared pretty well. The passing lane's still a little dodgy, but people were, not following too close. There were very few cars out, which is also a good sign. People have heeded the warning to, get in and stay in. But yeah, you just can't be in a big hurry to do anything when the weather's like this.
Just slow down.
Brenda Casey reporting that the fine snow has now transitioned back over to larger flakes in East Owensboro. So that's
Okay.
just in.
Part of that bigger band we were talking
Exactly. And let's see. Drew Rapp wants to know if we're working all night long. Well, we're working at least through 10 to midnight, or 10 o'clock, I should say. Byron Douglas is going to be right back in tomorrow morning early, and then we'll repeat the process during the day, as long as the snow's coming down.
Yeah, we even actually have a special morning show that they're planning on doing.
We
tomorrow
do.
morning.
At 8 o'clock, it'll be a normal newscast. It'll be Byron Douglas
On air.
and Casey and Mitch, or just Mitch. I can't
I think
remember.
it's both.
We need to go to all the meetings, don't we?
it's
We
both.
hide out back here in
I
weather.
saw a promo. I think they were both in.
Okay, well, it was in a promo. It's got to be true. So, but yes, we'll have you covered with a traditional newscast. We also have a newsroom full of people today.
Yes.
Normally on a weekend, that's not the case. I mean,
Yeah.
we'll be honest. It's usually quiet on weekends.
Yeah.
So we have everybody mobilized here. Barbara Bellinger will be out in the Interceptor, kind of reporting on road conditions out there. We've got Jamie and Rob will be on the 6th. You're going to do the weather. I'm going to talk about the cold because that is kind of the secondary hazard, but maybe almost as bad as the cold. So
can be quite-
Michael's handling snow, I'm cold. So you can decide who you hate more.
Snow miser, cold miser.
Right.
But yeah, looking at some current conditions outside, here's a live look of the Twin Bridges behind our temperatures there. You can see they are becoming a little bit more snow covered. However, as Jeff mentioned, people are following the rules. There are a good amount of distance between these headlights that I'm seeing. So reduced visibilities and slick conditions, just take it easy. Temperatures, they are bitter out there. It's only in the teens, and it feels a lot worse out there. We don't have much of a wind component with this system, but even a little bit of a breeze makes those wind chill values drop below 0. So we feel like 0 there in Owensboro. It feels like 4 below in Henderson. So if you are going to be outside, not only do you need to take it easy and go slow, you also need to bundle up, because here's a look at some of those cold
Yeah,
ones.
and this is going to be my thing tonight is the cold. We had at least we have not had an extreme cold warning. I don't remember one of those. I mean, cold weather advisory, yes, but an extreme cold warning. And this is for that combination, not only of cold temperatures like down to 0, but wind chills maybe 15, 18, 20 below as that wind picks up on the backside of this system. And that's a real hazard for kids out. Anybody, mail carriers, anybody that's got to be out in the elements will have to be extremely careful, because frostbite at those levels can set in as little as 20, 30 minutes.
Yeah.
I even, today I was shooting videos, so I had a glove off. I had my fingers out,
Yeah.
and they didn't freeze, but it was painful.
Going
And
up,
I knew they were going. I was like trying, but, if you're out working, sometimes you don't realize,
Yeah.
and you can get frostbite very quickly. So we are concerned about that. I have a couple more snowfall totals for you here. 3/4 of an inch with Jeff Miller in Savah.
Okay.
An inch on the south side of Evansville. And let's see, Beth Quarterman says, please thank all the snowplow operators. I think we
Yes.
should, yes.
Thank you.
I was with snowplow operators on the airfield today, and of course, they're just like the guys out on the highway. They're there until the snow's gone. And it takes a special grit and skill and determination to hang out and run. But they're doing that. And not only in Vanderburgh County, but across the tri-state, a lot of families that have somebody working in those jobs, they're not going to see them for a few days.
Yeah, so this is impacting a lot. So that's why just best to stay home, let the road crews do their jobs, and then everything should be back to normal, hopefully relatively quickly. But again, once the snow stops, we've transitioned over to this dangerous cold, that extreme cold warning.
And that could disrupt school as well, in addition to the snow. And keep in mind, at those temperatures, the snow won't go anywhere.
No.
Even with sunshine out there, we're at that depth, we will hang on to that snowpack probably through all of next week. Wouldn't surprise me if we still have snow on the ground on Friday. Given these temperatures here, we never break above
We'll have
freezing.
snow on the ground till April.
Yeah, well, gee, you really know how to light up our room, don't you?
That's what it was like in Maine.
So, yeah, but 0 Monday morning, Tuesday 1 below, and single digits there in the morning. And when you're starting at that basis, you're not going to warm up a whole lot. I know just from personal experience here, furnaces tend to go out, because they're working very hard this time when the weather is like this. And I also know sort of firsthand, my daughter's furnace went out last night, but they were able to get it fixed. There was a on-call guy. But think about those folks too, your HVAC repair people, plumbers, anybody. Frozen pipes, we haven't talked about that either.
I've got that in here
We're going to
too.
get into the frozen pipes and the pets in a minute. So go ahead, Michael.
Here's what those wind chill values are looking like. Jeff was just talking about. It's really going to get cold there by the time we get into Monday morning. As he was talking about, maybe as much as 10, 15, closer to 20 below zero is possibility for these wind chill values. Now, this may be a little bit exaggerated, but still it shares the same message. It's going to be dangerously cold, and you need to take it very seriously. And in order to take it seriously, it's, in order to remember the 3 Ps. So it's people, pets, and pipes. So.
That's right. And of course, people we've kind of honed in on, check on folks, your neighbors and that, if you have elderly, anybody that has any kind of compromised circulatory issues. I mean, hopefully they're not out in the cold.
Right.
But if the furnace goes out or something like that, you need to check in. Your pets, of course, I'm a cat guy, but, we got dogs and cats and horses. All people have all kinds of pets around the area. They really need to be indoors. If you can swing it, a garage, a shed. If you can't do that, at least get them some straw or a dry cover and a shed or a doghouse, something like that. Make sure they have open water because that freezes, and food, of course, and some means of warming through the period here. And also the pipes. We talk about the plumbers that are going to be doing a lot. You'll see a lot of broken water mains and things like that because of the extreme cold. You can mitigate that somewhat at home by keeping your cabinet doors open, letting a faucet drip, especially if your pipes are running on the outside walls of your house. Maybe your insulation isn't great, and that's one thing you can do. Heat tape, it's kind of too late for that because you'd have to go somewhere to get it, but that can work as well. Don't throw a pipe with a candle or a blowtorch. You don't want the fire department to have to get out in this weather because you did a boneheaded thing like that. So if you do have frozen pipes, you're going to have to call the plumber or wait. But and that is a common thing. The other one, and this isn't quite so much in the water part of it, but we're not expecting widespread power outages. However, it can happen, and especially down where we're expecting that icing in western Kentucky.
Yeah.
And if you're using a portable generator, gas-powered one in that, you got to keep it far away from the house. Absolutely don't run it in the garage or even close to the house because that carbon monoxide can get drawn back in and you could kill you. So just be sensible there with that.
Yeah, and then so just adding on to what you were saying, for indoors, you definitely want to be making sure you're checking on those heating systems, those furnaces, HVAC, make sure they're working properly, and your carbon monoxide detectors, especially if you're using a generator and you're not necessarily, well-versed in using generators, you may set it up incorrectly, and if that happens, Jeff mentioned carbon monoxide goes right back into the house, and that could cause some problems. So you want to make sure all of your systems and fail-safes are in place and properly working. If you're going to use supplemental heating, using space heaters, you want to make sure you're using them very safely, keeping them away from anything that's flammable. Jeff mentioned running a trickle of water to prevent frozen pipes, and of course, having an emergency kit ready. Again, we're not expecting power outages here. You can't rule out an isolated outage here and there, especially across western Kentucky where they get a little bit more of that mixing. But some blankets, flashlights, and food will never be a bad option to have on deck. And then if you're going to be outside in this cold, which we do not recommend, you need to be dressing in layers, covering all exposed skin, and limiting that time outdoors, especially the kids that want to play in the snow.
Yeah, feet, hands, and head in particular, you lose quite a bit of, about 20% of your body heat. I used to say 50 because I'd always heard 50, but it's about 20. For me, it's a little more than that. I've got a little bald spot back there, and your hands, gloves, and maybe even a secondary layer under there. And if you can keep your feet warm, whether you got electric socks or too thin or anything that'll wick that water away, will help. And this kind of weather, I wear my outside boots inside all the time because my feet are always cold.
Yeah, we're always cold.
Right,
we always
right.
talk about that. But yeah, those are just kind of the safety tips as we go through this system. And of course, we want you guys to continue to provide us with your updates and
that's what it's all about, how it's impacting you all.
Yeah, and that's kind of what we're going to be transitioning to. Now that the storm is here, there's not a whole lot of forecasting that needs to be done. It's all about just the now, what is happening right outside your window. So we want your snowfall reports, but we want to make sure that you're taking them accurately as possible. So the first thing you want to do is think about the time you're taking them. You want to measure as soon as the snow stops falling to avoid any sort of melting, settling, or compacting. Now, the next thing you want to do is you want to find some locations that it looks like the snow is hanging around its average depth. You don't want to measure your snow in a snowbank or measure it on top of your car.
Can't put your thumb on the scale. We want on the level readings out here.
So find somewhere where it's nice and flat and it looks like the average depth. And then you want to take a measurement with a sturdy measuring stick, a yardstick, or a ruler, and you want to round it to the nearest tenth of an inch. And then you take that at least 3 different times. So you want to go to two or three different areas, take the average of it, and then that'll be a nice, accurate snowfall report.
And a lot of you do this, and I like this especially, where you take a picture of the yardstick in the ground, and then you'd say Michael Fecka, Princeton. So we know where it is, who it is, and then we will plot those on not today, but tomorrow we will be plotting a snowfall map to really show. Then basically that's verification because we've had this forecast ongoing. We're quite curious, and I know Bart, Arden, and Byron are too. Of course, we have our own ulterior motives. We have a little in-office wager on how much will fall here at the station. But send your stuff. You can submit it through the app. You can use the submit photos on 14news.com, and they'll all show up there, and then we can roll through and quickly produce a graphic there. And I think you're going to talk about that.
You already
just use the app. That's the easiest way to do it.
Yeah. So that is kind of the good word on this live update here. So there's another look at our 7-day. Once we clear out of this storm system, we're on alert through Monday. We may have to extend it into Tuesday morning for that extreme cold warning.
That won't surprise me. Maybe even Wednesday as well. So that we're seeing another chance there of snow starting to pop back in. So we're going to work on the forecast now. Michael will have the snow forecast on 14 News at 6. I'll be handling the cold aspect of it. As we mentioned, we have a full news cast on as we do every weekend. Jamie and Rob are in. We have Barbara Bellinger, our weekend anchor, will be out in the Interceptor showing road conditions out there. And we have a full crew of reporters. So we have you covered for the evening. Michael and I will then be back this evening with our normal stream shows and so forth. So please stay safe. We appreciate so much you're watching these streams and giving us information. Hopefully we can keep everybody safe and informed.
Yep, and stay warm. We'll see you again later.